World Empires Series. Parts 1 and 2, When Babylon Swallowed the World. Chapters 1 to 7. 722 to 586 BC. Introduction. Welcome to the World Empires Series. Over the course of this series, we will travel from the ancient empires of the Near East all the way to the end of the Second World War, covering more than 2,500 years of human history. We begin not with Rome, not with Greece, but with the world that shaped the Bible, the empires of Assyria, Egypt, and Babylon, and the small kingdom of Judah that found itself caught between them. Chapter 1, The Assyrian Empire and the Fall of Israel. The year is 722 BC. The mightiest military machine the ancient world had ever seen is on the march. The Assyrian Empire, based in what is now northern Iraq, had spent 3 centuries perfecting the art of conquest. And in 722 BC, its king Sargon II put an end to the northern kingdom of Israel. Assyria's genius, and its terror, lay in a policy called deportation. When a city was conquered, its leading citizens, its craftsmen, its priests, its soldiers, the very people who gave a society its structure and memory, were uprooted and resettled hundreds of miles away. New populations were brought in to replace them. The result was that conquered peoples lost not just their freedom but their identity. The 10 tribes of the northern kingdom of Israel were scattered across the Assyrian Empire, and they never returned. History knows them as the 10 lost tribes of Israel. For the southern kingdom of Judah, this was a catastrophe on their doorstep. Their northern cousins were gone. And the Assyrian war machine was now turning its gaze southward. Chapter 2, Pharaoh Necho and the Battle of Megiddo. Now enter Egypt. In 609 BC, Pharaoh Necho II marched his army northward through the land of Canaan, not to attack Judah, but to assist the crumbling Assyrian Empire against the rising power of Babylon. It was one of history's great miscalculations. Egypt was backing the wrong horse. But standing in Necho's path was Josiah, the reforming king of Judah. Why Josiah chose to fight at Megiddo against a much larger Egyptian force, we cannot say for certain. Perhaps he saw an opportunity to resist Egyptian dominance. Perhaps he misjudged the situation. Whatever his reasons, he rode out to the valley of Megiddo, a place whose name would echo through history as Armageddon, and he was killed. It was a shattering blow to Judah. Josiah had been the king who renewed the covenant with God, who reformed the temple, who gave his people a moment of genuine spiritual renewal. And he died pointlessly in a battle that was not even his. The book of 2 Kings records simply, and his servants carried him in a chariot dead from Megiddo. The prophet Jeremiah composed a lament. And the kingdom of Judah, deprived of its greatest king in a generation, lurched toward catastrophe. Chapter 3, The Rise of Babylon. While Egypt and Assyria were focused on each other, something extraordinary was happening in the south of Mesopotamia. A new power was rising, one that would dominate the ancient world for nearly a century. The Neo-Babylonian Empire, or Chaldean Empire, was built by a remarkable dynasty. Its founder, Nabopolassar, had spent years fighting for Babylonian independence from Assyria. In 612 BC, his forces combined with the Medes to destroy Nineveh, the Assyrian capital. The prophet Nahum had predicted its fall. Nineveh is laid waste. Who will mourn for her? Nobody did. But it was Nabopolassar's son who would make Babylon the dominant power of the age. His name was Nebuchadnezzar II. And in 605 BC, at the Battle of Carchemish on the Euphrates River, his forces crushed the Egyptian army under Pharaoh Necho. The world had a new master. And that master was looking west, toward Judah and Jerusalem. Chapter 4, Nebuchadnezzar and the Sieges of Jerusalem. Nebuchadnezzar did not destroy Jerusalem all at once. He came in stages, each time tightening the grip, each time punishing Judah's repeated and ultimately futile attempts to break free of Babylonian control by seeking Egyptian help. In 605 BC, after Carchemish, Judah submitted. Nebuchadnezzar took the first group of hostages back to Babylon, young men from the nobility, to be educated in the Babylonian court. Among them, according to the book of Daniel, was a young man named Daniel. In 597 BC, when Judah's king Jehoiakim rebelled, Nebuchadnezzar came again. This time he took a larger group of exiles, including the king's son Jehoiakim and the prophet Ezekiel. And then, when the final rebellion came under King Zedekiah, Nebuchadnezzar's patience ran out entirely. In 587 BC, his army laid siege to Jerusalem. After 18 months of siege and famine, the walls were breached. Zedekiah fled and was captured. He was forced to watch as his sons were executed, the last thing he would ever see, because Nebuchadnezzar then had his eyes put out. He was led in chains to Babylon. And then Jerusalem was burned. The Temple of Solomon, the house of God, the center of the Jewish world, the place where heaven met earth, was razed to the ground. The Ark of the Covenant disappears from history at this point. The walls of the city were demolished. And the people of Judah were marched into exile. Chapter 5, The Babylonian Exile. The exile changed everything. A people who had defined their identity around a land, a city, and a temple found themselves in a foreign country with none of these anchors. How do you worship God when God's house is destroyed? How do you remain a people when you are scattered? The Jews of the exile found their answer in the Word. If the temple was gone, the texts remained. The period of the Babylonian exile was, in many ways, the crucible in which the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, was forged in something close to its final form. Scribes and priests and prophets gathered, sorted, edited, and wrote. The exile produced some of the most beautiful and anguished literature in human history. Psalm 137 captures the mood. By the rivers of Babylon, we sat and wept when we remembered Zion. On the poplars there we hung our harps. How can we sing the songs of the Lord while in a foreign land? Yet not all was grief. The Jewish community in Babylon flourished economically. Business records from the period show Jewish names owning property, running businesses, engaging in trade. They adapted. They survived. And they waited. Chapter 6, What Babylon Left Behind. Babylon itself was a wonder of the ancient world. Nebuchadnezzar's city was vast, built on both sides of the Euphrates, connected by bridges, enclosed by double walls so thick that chariot races were allegedly held on top of them. The Ishtar Gate, reconstructed today in Berlin's Pergamon Museum, gives some sense of the scale and artistry, brilliant blue glazed bricks decorated with golden dragons and lions. The Hanging Gardens, if they existed, were counted among the 7 wonders of the world. Modern scholars debate whether they were in Babylon at all, or perhaps in Nineveh. The ancient sources disagree. But the legend speaks to the grandeur that Babylon represented. Babylon also gave the world something more lasting than gardens. It gave us the 7-day week, organized around the movements of the 7 celestial bodies visible to the naked eye. It gave us sophisticated mathematics. The Babylonians could calculate square roots and solve quadratic equations. It gave us astronomy of remarkable precision. And through the exiled Jews who brought Babylonian ideas back to Judea, it shaped the development of the Hebrew scriptures in ways scholars are still tracing. Chapter 7, Key Sources and Further Reading. The story of Babylon and the exile is documented in extraordinary detail across multiple sources. The Bible, especially 2 Kings, 2 Chronicles, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Lamentations, gives us the Judean perspective, full of grief, anger, and theological reflection. The Babylonian Chronicles, clay tablets discovered in the 19th century and now in the British Museum, confirm many of the biblical events from the Babylonian side, including the siege of Jerusalem in 597 BC. Archaeological excavations at Babylon itself, carried out by the German archaeologist Robert Coldway from 1899 to 1917, uncovered the Ishtar Gate, the processional way, and the outline of the Great City.